Bitcoin is finally rising again, and now a new trade fight just exploded between the United States and Canada. This news may or may not threaten the rally. But if this escalates, crypto investors definitely need to pay attention. Late Friday night, the U.S. Trade Representative announced that negotiations with Canada had broken down. The United States said Canada walked back parts of a trade agreement that had been taking shape earlier in the week. Canada says the opposite happened. That last-minute U.S. demands made the deal unacceptable. And now things have escalated quickly. The U.S. has moved ahead with 50% tariffs on roughly $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. Canada says it will retaliate dollar for dollar. That sounds pretty ugly. But here is what actually matters for Bitcoin. A limited trade dispute with Canada probably does not suddenly erase Bitcoin's current momentum. The direct economic impact is relatively small compared with the enormous U.S. economy and global financial system. The danger is what happens if this turns into something much bigger. More tariffs can increase the cost of imported products. Higher costs can feed inflation. And if inflation becomes a bigger problem again, the Federal Reserve has less room to lower rates or loosen monetary conditions. Higher rates and higher Treasury yields generally make speculative assets like crypto less attractive. So in a worst-case scenario, escalating tariffs could pressure Bitcoin indirectly through inflation, yields, and weaker risk appetite. There is also the classic panic effect. If markets suddenly go risk-off, traders often sell crypto first and ask questions later. But right now, Bitcoin has something much more powerful working in the other direction: real demand. Bitcoin has recently been trading in the high $70,000 range after an enormous weekly rally, and U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs have pulled in around $1.6 billion across several recent sessions. That tells us institutions are not simply watching this move from the sidelines. Money is actually coming back into Bitcoin. So I would not make the Canada trade fight the main Bitcoin story yet. The much bigger thing I would be watching is monetary policy. Markets are waiting for more clues from Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh, especially around inflation, Treasury yields, and what the Fed could do next. If yields fall, the dollar weakens and ETF demand stays strong, Bitcoin could potentially shrug off a limited trade dispute pretty easily. If tariffs start spreading, inflation heats back up, and the Fed turns more aggressive, then this becomes a much bigger problem. And while Bitcoin itself is showing strength again, one early-stage project trying to expand the Bitcoin ecosystem is Bitcoin Hyper. Bitcoin Hyper is building a Bitcoin Layer 2 using Solana virtual machine technology. The goal is to take Bitcoin's massive liquidity and give users faster transactions, lower fees, and access to things like decentralized finance, staking, and programmable applications. Bitcoin Hyper is still extremely early, and its presale continues moving through scheduled pricing stages. That makes it interesting for people specifically looking for higher risk opportunities before a project reaches the broader market. Obviously, that also means significantly more risk. There is no guarantee Bitcoin Hyper succeeds or that the token increases in value after launch. But if the Bitcoin ecosystem continues growing, it is one project I think is worth researching. The Bitcoin Hyperlink is in the description. And Best Wallet makes getting into newer crypto projects much easier. Best Wallet is a non-custodial, multi-chain wallet where you can buy, store, swap, and manage supported crypto from one app. It also gives users a much simpler way to access newer projects without constantly moving between different exchanges and wallets. Best Wallet includes features like biometric authentication, two-factor authentication, and MPC-based security, while keeping you in control of your assets. The Best Wallet link is also below. So does this new US-Canada trade fight kill Bitcoin's rally? Right now, probably not, but watch whether the dispute spreads, because tariffs themselves are not the biggest threat to Bitcoin. The bigger threat would be tariffs reigniting inflation, pushing yields higher, and forcing the Fed to stay tighter for longer. For now, ETF demand and the battle around $80,000 are still the bigger story. As always, this is not financial advice. Do your own research and never invest more than you can afford to lose.